Today is RPI's Tech Talk. This is going to be very minimal on slides and presentation, and it's really going to be hands-on time. So what we're going to do today is we're going to spend our time together showing you how to verify that you have all the pieces in place to make sure that data is flowing from either CSF or GHR all the way over to Birst. So we're going to walk you through that steps, give you some advice, show you some ways you can troubleshoot issues if you're looking to get that set up for your system. So I'm going to start off. I just want to have one slide here to show things kind of at a high level for how this works, and then we'll jump right into the demo and start looking at all these different pieces. So basically what happens is you have delivered replication sets, right? Those replication sets you then configure and schedule them to execute. Those replication sets create JSON BODs, right, that are then sent over to ION, right? And ION is really the transport layer. So it receives those messages and then sends those messages to the data lake where they're stored. Once that data is in the data lake, then that's how Birst connects to it. So Birst uses a JDBC driver to connect to the data lake. And then when their orchestration execute, that's what actually pulls the data into Birst. So at a high level, those are the steps that are involved. So let's get my screen up here and let's look at this and see how we troubleshoot. Okay. One sec, make sure I got my screen. Okay, perfect. All right, guys, so so this is our test instance that we have. So we're going to go in here and I'm going to kind of poke around and show you some of the different areas to look at. So the stuff I'm walking through is for GHR, but everything basically is the same for CSF. So you can use this for either system to configure data to make sure that it's working between those two systems. So I'm just going to go into GHR, and then I'm going to switch over to Administration Console, and then we're going to go down to Database and Replication. Okay, and once there, you have these 4 different replication sets that are delivered out of the box. So you want to make sure that these are registered. You should have no icons. You shouldn't have any red or orange icons here, which means that something is out of date, a replication is incomplete, or a schema is out of date. So you want to make sure all those are cleared before you get started. But first, before we go in and configure the replication sets, one thing you need to do is you need to make sure that the ION out queues are cleared. So let's go and switch over to Async Administrator, and then we're going to go into ION, and we're going to go into ION out queue. So you can see here on the outbox requests along the top, we have a bunch of different tabs, right, which are kind of, you know, the different areas where the messages are, the states that they're in. You'll see things in new and pending as stuff is processing. You need to make sure that failed, pending, retry, and canceled are all cleared. If they're not, what you need to do is you need to go and select all the messages that are in here, and then go down to actions. And the first thing you need to do is cancel. So either cancel all failed or all new, depending on the state that they're in, and that'll move them over to the canceled queue here. So do that for both failed and for pending retry. Make sure that those are empty, okay? If there's messages in here, your replications will never complete. Basically, those replication sets are going to say that there's an incomplete replication, and no matter how many times you run it after that, it's never going to work. So you have to make sure these queues are cleared before you start that. Once those messages are in canceled, then again, you just do a select all, and then you'll get the delete icon and delete that message. So do that. Make sure that these 3 queues in async admin are cleared and there's nothing in them, so that your replication sets will work properly. Okay. All right, so once you have that cleared, kind of the pathway open for those messages to flow through, then you go back to Administration Console, and you're going to go down to Database and Replication. You're going to have these replication sets. So once ION out queue is cleared, the next thing I recommend is basically, if you've never had a good or a consistent replication, you probably want to reset these, right? Just to make sure that you get a full replication. So once that's cleared, you're going to go ahead and select all these messages. You're going to right click again. If you have any out of date schemas, make sure you register that. You do that here. Once it looks like this, where you don't have any icons indicating any error states, then you're going to go down and you want to do a reset first. So I'm going to go ahead and hit reset. And basically what that's doing is just saying the next time I run, I want you to send all the data from GHR over to the data lake, right? So you can go ahead and hit OK to all, and then that's going to go and that's going to reset those replication sets. Then the last step is then you want to actually go and replicate. You go ahead and click on that. You can do it ad hoc, right? You just run this, or most people actually schedule it. So when you go to that replication screen, you want to make sure you set it to run. Most people, by default, when we're setting up instances, we do it on a daily basis. So normally at 3 a.m. local time. And then depending on how long it takes for that data to replicate, we set the burst orchestration normally to run an hour afterwards. It could be an hour and a half afterwards. So 3 a.m., replicate your data from your source system. 4 a.m., have the burst orchestration pull the data down from the data lake, okay? And you can adjust that window depending on how long it takes. So that's good here. I'll just go ahead and hit replicate for this. This is our test system. So once the replication kicks off, if you want to watch and make sure that things are flowing through, you're going to go and switch over here to Async Administrator. When you're in here, these are the different queues. There's ones that's dedicated for data replication, and so it's surprisingly called the Data Replication Queue. So you can go ahead and click on that, and then you can scroll over here, and that's going to show you the different messages as they queue up and run. So you can see if they're queued, which are waiting to be processed, active, and then if you have any failures or if they're finished. So this is a good way to monitor it. I like to set max actions to 4, and I also like to set save history TS. So max action allows it to process more messages concurrently. And then save history then shows me the counts for these different areas when the data is going and replicating. So you can see now I submitted that replication. The messages are now going to queue up. So you'll see that queue number continue to increase, and then they'll eventually go over to active and then finished. So that's how you make your replication sets are working and you're sending messages out to ION. All right, and please, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. There's a chat function through the GoToWebinar that you can use if you want to do that. Just feel free to send those. We've got myself and a couple of my colleagues from the technical team here, so we'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have as we walk through this. Okay. All right, so once they're processing, then you can go over to ION. And so to do that, we're going to go up to the Mingo menu, and then we're going to go over to ION Desk. So this is kind of the next step. So now we know we've got replication, the queues are cleared, the replication sets are configured to run. Now we need to go check on stuff on ION. And this is important because we often see that some of these settings are incorrect when instances are provisioned or they're missing altogether, in which case you may have to create it or have Infor Operations do that for you. So the first thing you want to go and check is you need to have a connection point defined, and that connection point is going to have a description. If you look under the green active button, it says GHR IMS. You need to have that connection point there. Similarly, right, there's one for FSM IMS. That connection point needs to be there. We've seen instances where the connection point is not there at all. So you need to make sure that's there. You can ask Infor to provision it, or you can actually add it if you need to. Once that connection point's available, this is where you need to go and then specify, make sure that all of the document types are in here. So anything relating to HCM is going to be prefixed with HCM underscore. So you need to basically go and make sure that all of those document types are here. So that tells ION where to route those documents or those bots to. Once those are added, then you need to go in. So once a connection point is set up, then you need to go into the data flows. And so we have one here called GHR to data lake. And so we're going to go ahead and click on this. It's a simple flow, right? You just configure, you select the application here, you select the document types, and then you tell it to send it to the data lake. So if we look at this application, if you look down on the bottom, so we're going to go, if we're creating a new one, you're going to go and select the GHR IMS one. It's already selected, so it's not in the list here. So that's all you have to do for application. And then so drag the ingest down to data lake. And then you're going to click on this little document between these two, and you're going to hit the plus button. And again, everything is going to be prefixed with HCM. So I want to put in HCM underscore. This is already configured, so there's no document types there, but normally there would be a list of about 45 to 50 documents. Do a select all and hit OK. Okay, and that has to be there. Let me show you actually how you do that real quick. I'll just create one and won't save it. So if this data flow isn't there, you can go ahead and add a new one. So we're going to click on that. So again, you just take application, you drag it down here, and then we go and we're going to select the instance. So it would be whatever one has GHR IMS in the description. Hit OK. And then we drag this one down to ingest to the data lake. You click on the document, and then you specify what documents you want sent. We would do HCM underscore, select all, and hit OK. Okay, and that's going to save that data flow. And then you would save here, and then you would click activate to turn on that data flow. Okay, so very important. So if those aren't there, again, nothing will flow from ION to the data lake. So we're not going to save our changes. So we've got our connection point there. We've got the data flow in place. Then if you want to troubleshoot again, so once those are there and messages are flowing, I like to go into one view. So we can go here, and this is actually show you the documents that are coming across the interface. You can actually go and inspect the BODs and look for that JSON. So let's pull this up. Okay, so here we've got the different document types. So if you want to go and see what information is actually being sent, we often do this if we have like a custom extension that we've added to a business class, and we want to make sure those values are being sent across. You can go ahead and simply click on it. And then if you double click on this icon here, then that's going to actually show you the JSON. So you can peruse through this. You can copy and paste it if you have a JSON editor that you prefer to look at that data. So that shows you those messages. Again, you can search in here and verify that the data is being sent across. In addition to one view, then we also go down to Data Lake and click on Data Lake Overview. So this shows us the stuff that's coming in. So you can see the different types of data that's being sent, so those different object types. So again, look at that and verify that information is being sent across. And then you can go into Compass, and Compass is, it's basically like a query tool. This is to actually query the data lake and see what's been stored. So again, those replication sets create the BODs that get sent via ION and stored in the data lake. So now we're going to go and query and see what actually is out there. So you can simply click on that. If you want to expand it, you can see the schema for this object type. So make sure all the stuff that you have is there. Useful, especially when you're adding extensions to those business classes. And then we'll go here and just do select. So that's going to add all the columns. Click run query, and then this will return you that result set. And now we can see what's being stored in the data lake. Okay. So we can look at the data here. There's some nice metadata that gets added on to these records that can be useful when you're looking to see when the data was updated. So things like update stamp, you know, these timestamps get put onto the data to show when that information was last updated. So again, if you're looking to make sure that new records or new data is coming across, it's an easy way to go in and troubleshoot that. Okay, all right, so we've configured the replication stuff. We've gone through, looked at the ION. We've now looked at the data lake and viewed that our data is out there. So if all those things are working properly, then the last step is to go into Birst and to check your orchestration. Again, the orchestration is what pulls the data from the data lake into Birst and then populates that data model so that your information is ready for reporting. So once you log in, again, we're going to go to the Mingle selector. We're going to click on Birst, and then we're going to go into admin down here. Okay. Once we're in admin, we're going to go over to orchestration. You're going to have a number of them delivered depending on what versions of CSF and HCM analytics you have. There's multiple different orchestrations for CSF where they've broken it out into finite steps. HCM has really just got one large orchestration that they put everything in. What we recommend doing, of course, is when you have this delivered orchestration from Birst, we recommend cloning that workflow. And the reason you want to do that is if you don't clone it, you can't edit this workflow. The way that Birst works is that only the person that created that workflow can actually edit it. So there's no way for me to change that delivered orchestration. And you can't configure notifications for who gets an email message if there's an issue with that orchestration. So if you go in here, now I've got a copy of this, and I can go in and I can easily edit or change. Sometimes you will see orchestrations where if you go through and you look at the steps, if your orchestration isn't executing, you always want to look for the word unknown. Sometimes you'll see errors where it can't find a space name, so it may say unknown space. You'll also see errors where it has an unknown connection. If you have any of those, you need to correct it either by deleting and recreating it or editing that step and making sure you assign the correct space or the correct connection. If you need to do that, just reference the delivered one. You can look at the steps that are in there and you just want to copy it and do it in that same manner. Okay. All right, so once you have that in place, then you want to go and schedule the orchestration. One sec, cancel out of there. Okay, and you go simply, click that drop down for this one, and then go to scheduling, edit schedules. Right, it's pretty intuitive, and then just schedule this when you want to run. So there's only two things that you have to configure once everything's set up. What time do your replication sets execute to extract data from the source system, whether it's CSF or GHR? And then the second one is your orchestration in Birst. When does Birst go out to the data lake and query the data that's there and pull it in and build out that data model? Okay, so I know there's many people that are have issues with this, all the steps that are involved with this. So we've kind of shown you some steps to troubleshoot that. Any questions from anybody that's on the line now about how we did this or how you get this set up to make sure that that data is flowing across? Okay. All right, I'm going to switch back over to my presentation here. There's no questions. We'll just wrap up. All right, so that's our tech talk today. So we showed you tips and tricks, best practices for configuring replication between CSF and GHR all the way over to Birst. If you have any questions or you're stuck, please let us know. We can help. And actually, if you're having issues getting that configured, let us know. We're willing to invest that time to help you get that set up for new customers. So if you are interested, please reach out to us. You can send us an email at questions@rpic.com. We will help you get that data flow so you can get your information into Birst so you can start creating reports and content. Of course, after that setup, if you need additional advisory or development support, we can also help you with that. If you have questions about product licensing and how that works, we'll help you to navigate that process as well.